Hi, I don't know when I'm going to insert this in, probably towards the beginning of the review. Um, just so you know, this is a content warning. Not for my review, but for this book. I feel really conflicted saying this because it could be seen as a spoiler because it sort of hints at the possibilities for the killer. But I think that it's really important to know going into this book that there is content that I would consider to be pedophilic. I would consider it to be that. It is definitely questionable content that the blurb does not tell you about, that it is not warned about anywhere, but there is a grown ass adult who has relations with high school children. They're fucking children. Um, so that is an aspect of this book that I think you should be aware of before you read it. Yeah. What is up, booktube? It's Monty, and today I'm here to talk to you about Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen and McManus. This was released earlier this month. It is a thriller, mystery, murder type book, and we're going to talk about it like I just said. So the plot is basically we have our two twins, Ellery and Ezra, although Ezra really is not important to the plot, who have moved to Echo Ridge. I think it's in Vermont. It's up in the New England area. It's really, I think the setting is actually really lazy, but because it's such a familiar place, I think that it's really easy to conjure cozy images of that setting. So it's set there in Echo Ridge, and their mother has been court ordered to rehab, so they're living with their grandmother in the town where their mother grew up, where their aunt went missing 20 years ago, where 5 years previously another girl had gone missing, and it seems that another one will be going missing soon. So that's sort of the premise. It's where we find ourselves. It's told in dual perspective. We get Ellery, who is new to the town, and then we get Malcolm, who is the brother of Declan, who was the boyfriend of the girl who went missing 5 years ago. I do want to say that one of my biggest problems, that isn't a writing problem, is that there are two characters, Ezra and Mia, who are meant to be part of like this quartet that's like sort of investigating what is happening in this town, but I feel like that both characters are underutilized in the course of the novel. And I think that Karen and McManus isn't. I think McManus has an issue because One of Us is Lying had four totally different points of views, and this one only has two. And I think that because the entire cast of characters in her debut had a point of view, we got to bond with them. Here, I feel like her supporting characters aren't really utilized. You have Ezra, who was really big in the beginning of the book, but then like sort of towards the middle and then to the end, every time that Ezra should be involved in a scene, like she'll have Ellery literally waving him off. Like their mother calls on a phone several times over the course of the novel, and I think he gets to speak to her like once, maybe twice. Um, it could be more, but literally it felt like every time there was a moment for Ezra to exist in this space, he got waved off, which was particularly upsetting because I was really excited because I thought that because Ezra's being a queer man wasn't being treated like a plot twist the same way. Let's get rid of that. The same way that it had in McManus's debut novel, that we were going to be in for like a nice treat. And then you had Mia, who was not only a queer character, but she was Asian. And she was, again, shafted. Her sister Daisy sort of played into the plot of the book, but again, they were there for diversity and like brownie points, but I felt that they weren't really integrated into the plot. And Daisy and Mia's parents are the only parents that don't make an appearance at all. Ezra and Ellery aren't even aware of who their father is at the beginning of the story. And over the course of the story, McManus shoehorns in this whole step sibling surprise revelation plot line, but we only hear about Mr. and Dr. Kwan like that. Like, it's Dr. and Mr. Kwan, and that's literally just a name drop. They never make an appearance. They don't say anything. They do not exist. So I felt that that was really lackluster representation. And again, to have Mia and Ezra both be queer and not play any kind of role in the overall narrative, I thought was really, really in poor taste. And I was really excited for them because I personally haven't read a lot of queer Asian characters, and you know, it would have been nice for them to be. I guess it's nice that they existed in her universe, but they didn't really play a part in the narrative. They were also the only two characters. I think Viv, a side character, also was never really romantically attached to anybody, but Ezra and Mia for sure weren't. But literally all the other side characters had mentions of a relationship happening, and our two main characters were obviously had romantic interests as well. And so I thought that was again really poor that not only did the Asian character not have her parents show up, even though everyone else's parents did, and she didn't get a love interest, even though everyone else had a name drop love interest. There was a girl that she was like maybe possibly going to ask out, but we never actually met this character. She was just referenced, and we don't actually know if she ever did that. So again, I thought that was really in poor taste. Moving on to the writing. The writing, I think, was perfectly fine. It was perfectly serviceable. Some people thought it was really captivating, or that it was really something that they could like latch onto, and they thought that the cliffhangers at the end of the chapters were really good. I personally thought they were just average. I never really felt compelled to keep reading, but I also never felt compelled to like set the book down and like never come back to it. Every time I read this rather quickly. I read it in like 2-3 days, and every time I set it down, I knew that I would pick it up again. And while I was reading it, I was enjoying it, but I didn't feel pushed to get answers to questions. There were parts where I was like, okay, this is an exciting development. I can't wait to see where this goes. But I wasn't like, I need to see where this goes right now. It was like, okay, I like how you're setting this up. I like how you seem to have plotted this through. Then we got to the end of the book, and I had a full meltdown on Twitter because we were like literally 40 pages to the end of this book, and what had previously been like a perfectly serviceable 3-star read was going downhill like a fucking roller coaster. Like we had full on meltdown on Twitter. I literally live tweeted the last 40 pages of this book because I could not believe how this was going, and not in a good way. Not in a good way. And it was so bad. So it was like a completely different person was writing that it was like, oh shit, I have to wrap this up. And so we just went, and it wasn't good. And I can't even blame McManus because this was a failure on every level. The agent failed her, her editor failed her, the line editor, the developmental editor, every editor, as far as I was concerned, failed her at the ending of this book because it was so bad. And I don't even think that when you're reading a mystery or a thriller, you need to be able to guess what is going on. But this book, when you find out who it actually is, it literally makes no sense. It's like a Lifetime movie that thinks it's winning an Oscar. But it's so cheesy, and I feel like it doesn't know that it's cheesy, that it's like, it's weird in a way, because it's so blatant. Like, it's not hidden at all. So there was no way after I read the ending of this book that I could give it anything more than 1 star, because it just ruined all the goodwill the 255 pages before it had like garnered. That's just like a really arbitrary number. I don't really know, but it was closer. I guess if it's the last 40 pages, it was closer to like 290. Like, it was just so slow and so meandering that when we find like the ending, it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth having to have sat through everything else. So now I'm going to go into spoilers. If you haven't read this, I would suggest you leave, read the book. You might like it. I am in the minority so far on Goodreads who did not like this book, so the odds are that you will. So go, check it out, purchase it. I don't know, however you attain books. Digest the story, come back. If you hang around while the thing is up here in the corner, is it over here? Over here in the corner. You can't come at me in the comments for spoiling this book for you. The only thing I have to say, actually before I even get to the ending, I thought the whole stepbrother plot was dumb. I kind of talked about this in the non-spoiler review, but the fact that she shoehorned in the twins finding out about their step-siblings and their father was completely unnecessary to the whole book. I didn't really care who their fucking dad was. And it didn't even play a part in the book because the dude was fucking dead. It was really dumb that their next door neighbor was their half brother and that their nana was so cavalier in calling him her brother at the end of the book. I thought the whole plotline was dumb. It was unneeded, and I felt that that also took away something that Ezra could have done. We got, again, the gay character, the queer character. He might have been bisexual or pansexual. It's never really addressed. The queer male character was sidelined in order to give the straight character a heroic moment that made no fucking sense. I was also really upset that we had to cut to them in the hospital at the end of the book because Karen and McManus could not seem to write a way out for them. That felt really convenient. So just like it felt really convenient for Peter to be the person that was the murderer for the past 20 years. Okay, so the fact that Peter being a fucking pedophile was glossed over also rubbed me the wrong way. Shout out to Christina. But it bothered me on every level because it didn't seem necessary. It didn't seem like that's the sort of a plotline you can have in an adult novel. Like, you can have an affair plotline. But if your murderer is going to be a grown-ass man, then his motivation cannot be having an affair with a high school child. And you then, if that is what you want to do, if that's what you want to do, fine, you're the author. Great, go for it. But you then have to deal with the consequences. And by the time that was revealed that he slept with not only Brooke, while his wife was in the fucking house. At least that was my understanding. He slept with Lacey. Not only was that a thing, but then you had his teenage daughter know that her dad was a pedophile, sleeping with her friends, and that didn't cloud her judgment or how she viewed him. It didn't affect their relationship. That's just poor writing, and that's why I say that this book was failed on every level, because it wasn't just that Karen M. McManus wrote it. It's that the editor approved it, another editor approved it, her agent was like, yes, I'm going to help you sell this book. The publishing house was like, yes, this is fine. On every level, like, it wasn't just one person. Multiple people read this, signed off on it, sent it to the printing press. And then people gave it 5 stars, and they don't talk about the fact there's a pedophile in the fucking book. And it's just glossed the fuck over. That's what really bothered me about Peter being revealed as the murderer. And then when it was revealed that he was the murderer of Sarah, and he thought Sarah was Sadie, I thought that was also really lazy, partially because I wasn't sure when this revelation was meant to have happened, because I don't really remember him and Ellery ever being close in this sort of time frame. This could have been communicated. He was on the other side of a locked door. It was weird. So I thought that the whole ending was messy. It all felt too nice, too tied up in a pretty bow, and it didn't work for me. It didn't work for me as a thriller. It just... that's all I have to say about this book. I really cannot not recommend it enough, because it fails. The execution of the ending fails. All of the goodwill it earned, all of the decent things that it did for like 200 plus pages was just ruined by the ending because they didn't seem to care about how this book ended. And so if you can't seem to care about how your book ends, then I can't seem to care about it at all. And I'm not saying that the ending should ruin a book for you, but in this genre, like, you can't end it as flaccidly as this one did. Um, so if you've read it, please comment down below. I would love to have a discussion. I would love to be able to see what people liked about it. I tried reading some positive Goodreads reviews, but most of it just seemed to like just be in awe of the plot twist, and the plot twist was what really disturbed me the most. And so I guess if you could go into like how you didn't view it that way, like, I don't know. You don't have to defend the book. Like, if you enjoy it, I'm really happy for you. I'm really happy that you were able to derive joy from this, but wasn't the case for me. I'll see you guys again tomorrow with my January wrap up. But until then, and until next time, bye.